And right now, we're gonna welcome into the house Chef Stephan Baity. What's up, Chef? How you doing, man?
Hey, you didn't warn me about the intro, man. That was awesome. I love it. I love it, man. I'm doing so good, man. If I was any better, I would be you, Paul. So,
So what you saying? You'd be 40. You'd be old and overweight.
and I enjoy fishing and doing some charismatic stuff on TikTok.
Oh yeah, the good old ticky tack. My little 7 seconds of stupidity. I enjoy it though. It's a good time. It's a fun time. But this is about you tonight, man. So
Okay.
introduce yourself. Tell us who you are.
All right. So my name is Stephen C. Baity. I own and operate well, I guess I'm a serial entrepreneur. That's what they keep calling me. But I have a spice line which I imagine we're going to dive into later called Pop Secret Seasoning. I'm a competitive fruit and vegetable carver, and my brand that I operate under is called Graffiti Carving. And then I have a private chef service that is a luxury chef service that is Stephen C. Baity. So those are the three entities that I find my identity under in the culinary world. So that's your man in a nutshell.
That's right. There we go. And y'all, if you're not following him on social media, you've got to do it. It's all the things that he just talked about, but you are going to get. I love art. My grandma was a art teacher. My mama taught art. I love art. You're not going to get the kind of art like you'll get from Chef Beatty with food. And by food, I'm talking about carving fruit. It is absolutely amazing. It's something I can scroll through his pictures for days. I can't do it for days anymore because I'm caught up and run out of it. Dude, tell us about the fruit art. How did that come about? And because one of the things you've said recently was that you're not an artist. You can't
hmm
draw, but
hmm
when you look at what you do with melons, holy shit, man, it is unbelievable. How did that come about? How did you find that gift?
Okay. So here's a crazy, crazy story, and it's amazing how life lines itself up. So when I was 17 years old, I went to culinary school. And so you do a year in school and then you do a internship, right? And so I was all locked and loaded in my internship. And then at the literally the 11th hour, my internship fell through. And so we happened to have a job fair, and a gentleman by the name of Joseph Huber, he is a certified master chef from Austria, was recruiting for the hotel that he was working at. And so I ended up being selected to be one of the interns that went there. So through my course, my internship, they had a chef there who used to do fruit and vegetable sculpting. Now you would think this is the part of the story where I say that he took me under his wing and that he downloaded all of his great knowledge upon me. It is not. That was the first time I was ever exposed to it. But then I was also introduced into a gentleman by the name of Dick Alfred, who is a phenomenal sculptor. But between the impression of a Dick Alfred and this gentleman from the hotel, when I was 19 years old, I convinced the man to give me the keys to his kitchen and let me run it. Now, mind you, I have never, at that point in my career, I had never did a schedule. I had never managed a staff. I had never hired anyone. I had never fired anyone. I had never held a team meeting, nothing. But I convinced this man at the age of 19 years old to let me run his kitchen. Well, we used to do these really cool, like little receptions, and my instincts kicked in because I was drowning. Like all I was making was cocktail meatballs at this point. I wasn't doing anything like I do now, right, Paul? And instinct kicked in, fight or flight, and I went and bought a pumpkin carving kit. And the ones with the little saw and you poke
Mhm.
holes and you the pattern, I was doing those on watermelons and I was putting those on the buffets. And the owner fell in love with it. He thought I was the best thing in the world was me using pumpkin carving kits on watermelons. But I didn't tell him that's what I was doing. But anyway, when he was giving me my props, I'm walking around the kitchen like I'm the king of the world. If I had a beard like yours at that time, I'd have been stroking it. And I'm telling you right now, I thought I was doing something. Well, Halloween came and gone, and so did my pumpkin carving kits left, right? But
Mm.
now I'm stuck with this gimmick of carving. And I went on the internet and I typed in fruit and vegetable carving, and the style of Thai carving came up, right? And that's what I'm known for in the industry. And I went to the hobby store and I bought some X-Acto blades and I started carving. Well, at least I thought was carving. My carvings was trash, Paul. I'm telling you, they were horrible, but it was something new and it was something different. But eventually, many years later, the light bulb went off and I started to make some sense. So where I am today versus where I'm started is two different things.
Are there any photos out there, those first carvings that you're calling terrible?
Yes. So I am going to shoot you. I'm going to screenshot some of them,
Okay.
and when I send them to you, and you're going to go, "Oh my God, this is bad." They're
Well,
bad.
I I probably won't say that because I'm not an artist. I can't draw a crooked line. And if you see my pumpkin carvings during Halloween, I damn sure can't carve any fruit. So I would be willing to bet I will not say they look bad. Now comparing them to the ones you're doing now, I'm sure they're not near as intricate because what you're doing now, it absolutely amazes me. There's no I cannot even fathom what it's like to be able to do that because you've competed internationally
Yeah.
on carving fruit.
hmm Yeah, yeah. So in 2020, I went to Stuttgart, Germany, and I competed in the Culinary Olympics. And I did live carving and I did showpiece carving, and I was able to achieve two awards from it. And I tell you, that is one of the hardest competitions I've ever done in my life. Like lost sleep, everything. Like you want to talk about that's why I do so many competitions, Paul. It's because that literally puts a mirror in front of you and you got to look at that reflection and you cannot blame anyone but yourself if you do not show up. And so that is the God honest truth why I absolutely love competitions. And so being overseas and having that experience um, definitely gave me a different outlook of what it means to be disciplined. Because a lot of those carvers, they start at 12 years old
Wow.
and it's part of their curriculum in high school and junior high and so on and so forth. So I definitely, got that bite for the competition.
So you're competing against folks that started carving but as a preteen, and you're
hmm
a self-taught at 19 years old.
Correct. Correct.
That's amazing. That's amazing. What awards did you win there?
I won two awards. Both were for culinary excellence. Um, and so internationally, the way they grade you is much different than stateside. So what it means is that my skill level was high enough to medal, but my technical merit wasn't high enough to medal. And so with my scores being so high as far as on the skill level that they I was awarded. And so that was such a humbling experience. First Olympics out, self-taught, mind you, that being the only carver also from the United States at that time and to have the skill level, but maybe not the technical level to get a medal. It was definitely humbling.
You said that you like to compete and that was very competitive. It seems like now I've never been in a kitchen. I've watched the TV shows and the movies of cooking and professional chefs and this and that. But it seems like that is a very competitive job and industry when you're a
hmm
chef. Is and I know it's not the same as what we see on TV, but is it that competitive in real life as what they portray in the television? Is it that cutthroat?
I'm gonna show you. There's actually two folds to it. So it is extremely competitive, from an ego standpoint. From a depending on your role in the kitchen. So, for instance, um, you're gonna have to learn in the restaurant industry, okay, that you're gonna have to be okay being the second man in the first man position. And what I mean is that you're gonna do all the grunt work, you're gonna do all the fabricating and breaking down, you're gonna do a lot of the hard labor and a lot of the hard lifting. And a gentleman who's the executive chef is gonna take your product, make some tweaks to it, put it on a plate, and he's going to get all the praise for it. So, from an ego standpoint, you got to learn to take your licks. You got to learn to be humble and come up through the ranks. All right. Then, so that's restaurant. Now, corporate America, where I've spent the majority of my time, you got to, it's much more than cooking. You got to be book smart. You got to understand how to make money. It's not about
Mhm.
pretty food on a plate. And so, from the competitive nature, you have to be able to take that one piece of chicken, use it in seven different dishes, and show that you're going to be able to keep your cost in line and make money. So it's a much different world versus the flair versus the money.
That's interesting because you would think that on the restaurant side, they would be making money there is pretty important too, and I know the restaurant industry is a tough, tough place to make a buck.
Mm-hmm. 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 Well, Paul, obviously, so there, once again, there's two sides of it. So you get the guy who, like a Salt Bay, who just sprinkles the salt off of his elbow, right? And it's the gimmick, and it's the show. But yet, it's not about necessarily the skill. It doesn't take a lot of skill necessarily, quote unquote, to cook that steak. It just becomes more about the show. So that's when I talk about the egos from the
Mm.
culinary standpoint. Is that you got to be able to execute great food.
I find it interesting that you say that the international carving competition made you lose sleep and it was extremely stressful because you've
Hmm.
done a couple shows on the Food Network as well.
Correct.
Cake Wars, correct?
Cake Wars, and I've done 2 seasons of Halloween Wars.
All right, tell us about the Cake Wars. What it Yeah, I did, and I've known you. We've talked about this, but I did some reading up just to on the intricacies of it, and it seems like they brought you on for your artist expertise. But
Hmm.
your team ended up winning that episode of Cake Wars, right?
Correct.
How
Correct.
was it being on a TV show and cooking cake? Are you a cake chef by any means, or was that something you had to rehash back from your culinary school days?
Man, yo, that's a great question. I'm gonna tell you this is that if you're gonna be a successful chef, so and obviously there's a plethora of mantles in the kitchen that you wear, from being a sous chef to a chef de cuisine to an executive sous chef to a chef de partie to an executive chef, and so on and so forth. And so the higher you get in the food chain when it comes to the hierarchy, is that you got to be able to know a little bit of everything in that kitchen, because that's the only way you're going to gain respect. And so I have always been very intentional about maybe not being an expert, but knowing just enough to be dangerous. That I could walk in the pastry kitchen and maybe I could look at his pastry cream, or I could look at his rolls, and I can say, not enough steam, too much egg, or whatever the case might be. And that he'll go, yes, chef. And so when it came to Cake Wars, that's just years of experience coming to the forefront and executing on a high level in front of millions of people.
So tell us about Cake Wars. Give us the quick synopsis because you can still find the stuff on there. What were some
Hmm.
interesting things that happened during Cake Wars?
So literally, Froggy and Beth, who were my first two teammates on the Food Network, I had never met them before. Now, obviously, you meet them from this is your teammates perspective, but to actually know them, I had no idea who they are. They don't give you like a practice round where they say, okay, now we're gonna let you guys like play around a little bit, and then when we that's just no. When they said lights, camera, action, that was the real thing. That was literally the first time I'm working with these strangers that I don't know. And we're literally learning each other live on television. And so when I'm seeing how Froggy is doing sugar, and how he's doing chocolate, I'm understanding the depth of his skill level. When I'm watching Beth sculpt a cake, I'm learning. And as I'm sculpting fruit, they're learning about me. And so we're learning how to play into each other while trying to provide entertainment and talk and trash talk and be very aware of our surroundings. So it's difficult. It's so hard, especially if you want to make sure you get airtime, because you want to make sure that the camera is in your section, right?
And so that like how they portray that on TV, that's real life. Like there's not they're not trying are they interjecting any conflict or anything bad happening? Are they are they setting you up to drop a cake or to trip and fall or anything like that? Are they trying to add in anything, or is it this is real life and they put you under the time crunch and the time crunch is what provides the
Mhm.
entertainment?
That's it, because anytime that also here's the thing about culinarians, that we do a great job behind the scenes. But if you ever notice, there are not a lot of chefs that you see in the camera. They just struggle. They have mental breakdowns. They feel the pressure. But the comfort is behind those closed doors. And oftentimes, the moment that you could put lights, camera, action in front of a culinarian and require him to talk and to have charisma. It's a recipe, and you're in a foreign kitchen, mind you, right? So
Oh
you
yeah,
don't know
yeah.
these pots and pans. You don't understand the way these ovens work. You don't know where the knives, the rolling pins are. You don't know nothing, and you're just running around like an idiot. Really, being honest.
So I mean, it sounds like just being there and not knowing where stuff is just enough to create some chaos for people.
Oh,
So that's funny.
oh my God. And I tell you, like, the funny thing is that sometimes that the stuff that you hear other teams like go at each other's throat, because
Mhm.
once again, you got to remember the pressure. You got to go back to your communities and back to your jobs. So if so and so Johnny is over here and he is risking your chance to win this competition and he's going to embarrass you, and you don't like you have no allegiance to Johnny besides he's your teammate on TV, you're gonna lay into him pretty good. So it's all the other drama, with the team that I used to love.
Yeah, that's nice. That's not, and I'm sure when you hear that as a competitor, you poke and prod a little bit to try to get them worked up, get them
Oh
off
my
their
God.
game. Some junk talking, huh?
So I was notorious for talking trash. I mean, I was a verbal ninja. I was
Mm,
cutting people with my words. And I love to get in people's head because I played sports. I was a huge sports head in high school. So, if you can get somebody in their head and you can get them to respond, I wanted that $50,000 check. So,
mhm.
I had plans for that money. So, by any means necessary, I was talking about their pet dog, gerbil, grandma. Anybody had a glass eye, I don't care. Fair game for me.
There you go. Hey, win it, win it. It's the mind games, the mental aspect of it, of any competition. That's huge. I mean, you hear the greatest athletes out there, Michael Jordan. Yeah, I mean, you hear the stories. Larry Bird. If people don't realize that the shit talker Larry Bird was, go on YouTube and just look it up. The mind
Mhm.
games those guys played with their competitors was on a different level, and it makes sense that in the kitchen, in the competitive cooking competition, the people they're gonna try to get you off your game.
Oh yeah, definitely. But I think it was all in love also. And so I think we all went into it knowing that it was a competition, but also it was great for TV, it was good for branding. And so once again, it was all about airtime. So the more I could run my mouth and get the camera over there, I was all about it.
There you go. What's the funniest thing that happened during Cake Wars for you?
So you got to remember you're mic'd up at all times, right? And so let's say you got to run off the set to use the restroom. They're listening to you just do God's business because you don't take your mic off when you go
That's
into the
right.
bathroom.
The stuff that doesn't get aired, right?
Yeah, I'm telling you. And so you think about that. And it's a psychological game because you don't want to let your break slip and and toot or something like that. So now you know that someone's listening to you. So I would always like, can y'all please mute my mic, please?
You hear everybody laughing back in the studio, and you're like, "Man, damn! Let me sit down real quick so they don't hear nothing." Well,
Oh
you
yeah.
you said it earlier about being well-rounded, for having to do what you do in the kitchen, and the stuff that you
Hmm.
post a lot of what you cook at Wofford,
Hmm.
doing the cooking and stuff there, and that really does show how you're well-rounded because you are doing the desserts and pastries, and you're doing the main meals, and it is all the it's not like what I cook at home and just throw some shit on a plate. You're plating it right and all that. but you cook all you're a part in cooking all of the food from the beginning to end, and that is
Hmm.
interesting in that because again, what I know is watching Gordon Ramsay on TV and some of the
Yeah.
movies that have been out there, and God, what was the having a brain fart? What was the HBO thing down in the HBO show down in New Orleans that was cooking related? Um,
Was it burnt?
no, it
Are you
was
talking
the
about
series. Shit, I'm
oh, the
forgetting.
Great Brunch, the brunch show?
No, it was it got had Bunk from The Wire. Um, Not Bunk. Anyway, I can't remember. People are listening. You'll know. I'll put it in the show notes. I'll think about it probably for at some point. But anyway, watching those shows and all those people were really, they had their thing. And again, that's a show. But to see what you put out, again, it's just the art of it. It's the
Hmm.
how you prepare the stuff that is just amazing to me and how you're able to do that because that shows a super creative mind to be able to put stuff down there that is not just taste good, right? But when you look at it, you're like, damn, do I really want to eat this? Or how many Instagram photos or ticky tacks am I going to make of this food before I cut into it? What
You
is
know, it's
the
fun.
go ahead.
It's funny that you talk about that, but I try to tell any culinarian that, especially that I mentor or reaches out to me, I says you have to be just in that intentional. Like it can be chicken parmesan, right? But you have to be so intentional about the sauce, the cheese, the crust, how long you're going to cook at what angle you're going to lay it down. Are you going to make sure you reduce your sauce enough that you don't get weeping from the tomatoes? Like, what's going to be your color? Are you going to use fried basil, fresh basil? Are you going to chop it? Are you going to chiffonade it? Like, I tell people that, like, when you have to be just that intentional about your everyday mom and pop meal, before you get to that high level. So we talk about my ability to operate at a college at that level. Then I turn around and do the super high end stuff. It's the same principle.
Mm,
So that's how you're able to operate. So if you stay ready, you don't have to get ready. So I tell people you don't have to now you want to be professional and now you want to be high end because you think you're doing this super high level food. That has to be the same intentionality, even when, like I said, you're doing a chicken parmesan. So that's just my philosophy on it.
I got you. And the show is Treme. It's the HBO show Treme. It's real good. If you have you seen it?
I have not, but I've heard of it though. That's
Yeah,
why I was right on some shows.
it's post Katrina, kind of showing how folks are coming up out of all the mess that happened down there, and it's focused a lot about the music and culinary aspect of New Orleans. It's a really good show. I loved it when it ended. I was kind of sad. I was very heavily invested emotionally into that show, but it was real good. Who who are some of the most famous people you've cooked for?
Man, so I'll tell you, I've been blessed growing up in Canton, Ohio, is that the Pro Football Hall of Fame is right there. So a ton of athletes who've been enshrinees into the Pro Football Hall of Fame. I say from a relevance, Deion Sanders was one of the coolest guys that I ever cooked for. And the way you see prime time with the athletes, he did the exact same thing when he got inaugurated into the Pro Football Hall of Fame. He brought 200 plus kids from Texas with him
Wow.
and did a camp the week before to expose them to a higher level of football. So, from a athletic standpoint, he was really cool. Michael Jordan he was really cool. I got a chance to partner with him on the Hero Gala, doing a fundraiser for Charlotte and doing some healthcare initiatives. Um, who else? Michael Jackson's executive producer. He was really cool. Never even knew that he was who he was. He wasn't very flashy. I can go on and on. Humbly, I say that, but
Yeah.
I've met some really great people.
Which of the famous people were you most nervous to cook for?
Oh, um, I would say it was going to be Michael Jordan's mother.
There we go.
Dolores. I was so nervous. Um, well, I was most recently, I would say CeeLo Green. All
Okay,
right.
yeah, I saw that post. I bet that was a good time too.
So I didn't know what to expect because he was very intentional on his menu,
Mm,
extremely intentional on his menu. And most times I curate a menu and I present it to be, approved. He submitted his menu and he was very intentional what he wanted in his food and what he did not. And so when you're under that kind of pressure, when you walk into the green room, you kind of like, is it good in here? You don't know what the response is going to be. So, most recently, I would definitely say that experience.
That's got to be interesting too, where you already have you know what you're going to cook since you're curating it, and kind of it's probably going to be in your wheelhouse. And then when you show up, somebody's like, "Nah, hoss, this what I want." I'm like, all right, give it to me. Let me get my brain to thinking now. Let me start taking some breath exercises and figure out what I got to roll with. What'd you cooking?
So, he wanted red snapper grits, and he wanted fresh vegetables. His salad, he wanted a very simple, clean salad, not a whole bunch of hubbub with it. He didn't want my normal thing, and he's not a big dessert guy. So, although I did dessert, he really did do dessert, but he was very, very focused on making sure he loves seafood. So he wanted his red snapper, he wanted grits, and he wanted some good vegetables to go along with it.
All right, I'm a grit connoisseur. I'm born and raised in South Carolina. You live in North Carolina now. I work for a guy in my hometown that grew and ground his own grits. Matter of
Hmm.
fact, that's the only grits that have been in my freezer since 2007. I go down there every year and I come home with, 10 pounds of grits and I get the white
Okay.
and the yellow. I'm a grit. How do you cook your grits?
So, I tell you, since I've been in South Carolina the last 5 years, that was one of the first questions people asked me. Well, it was two questions. Do I know how to make grits, and do I know how to make macaroni and cheese? Like that was they didn't care anything else about me and my background. They wanted to know if I knew how to do those two things. And I tell you, if I said I was making creamy macaroni and cheese, they told me to pack up, number one.
Yep.
And and second of all, if you say you're gonna cook instant grits, they're gonna tell you to pack up.
You nope. Just leave. You failed. So, all
Yeah.
right. Unless it's a secret recipe, just give us the overview of how you cook them, because I know how I cook mine, and mine are pretty damn good. Now, I mean, I
Uh-huh.
ain't gonna lie, I'm a little biased, but they are good. How are you doing a hominy, a big grit? You doing a small grit? You doing a mixed? And then what is just that quick prep time? Do you cook them a long time, or do you cook them hot and fast?
So low and slow, I always say you got to get a lot of stirring in. If you want a good grit, and the starch has to come out, you have to cook it like you do a risotto.
Mm.
You got to sit there and stir it. All right. Don't have any plans for your
Are you,
life
are you adding water in and stirring, or are you just putting all the water in and then going?
So that's actually I do mine in two parts. So I do water to begin with. Uh, then about midway through, I add my second round of water, right? And then at that point, then I season again. All right. So I season at the beginning, and then I season again at the end, and then I mound butter into mine.
Mm.
All right. So that's at the very end. Now, some people I still stay true to my Midwest roots. I put some cream in it. My one homeboy, he loves to put cream cheese in his grits. I don't know why,
No,
but
no.
I I ain't gonna call him out on the podcast, but uh, definitely mountain butter, and most of the time you got to use a good sharp cheddar cheese if you're gonna do cheese
Mhm.
grits. So I don't do any punk cheese that ain't got no bite. I like some must to mine. I like mine to stand up on its own.
There
So
you
how
go.
about you?
So I do mine kind of like that. So I put in 3 cups of water for a cup of grits, and I get it cooked down, stirring. I cook it. I bring it up to a boil, and then I turn it down on low,
Hmm.
and then it's just a lot of stirring. Once it starts to thicken up, so when I can pick that spoon of grits up and hold it down, it's not running off. It's falling off, and in little globs,
Mhm.
and then I'll put a cup of heavy whipping cream in there,
Mhm.
and then it's on low the rest of the time, and I cook it down until the grits no longer have any white from that cream. Now I cook mainly yellow grits, so it's easy to see, even though I'm colorblind. But I cook it down until that cream is incorporated, and then it's ready to roll. And I season with a little bit of salt, and then I put my homemade rub, my beer dust in there at the end.
Okay.
I don't add cheese for this house. I let them add their own cheese. But I do
Mhm.
agree the only cheese worth putting in grits has got to be the sharpest cheddar that
Mhm.
you want that bite and you want it to be sharp. I do agree with that 100%.
Oh yeah, but I think, I love the beer dust, but in my house we use Pop Secret
I
seasoning. All
I
right. You
know. That's where
you,
I'm
you
going.
already know.
That's where I'm
You
going.
already
Tell us
know.
about Top Secret, because that's what the biggest thing you've been doing here in at least the last year and a half, couple years, well, probably a couple years now, is Pop Secret. Tell us tell us the history behind it, where it came from, and then what it is.
So, so my dad, we call Pops. I can't tell you the last time like I would address my dad as dad or father. He was just Pops. And he was Pops because Pops had swag. Pops had presence. Pops was the coolest cat in the room. And he used to say he was slicker than snot on the doorknob. So, and my pops used to introduce himself as the Bull of the Woods, the real deal Holyfield,
I like
often
that, the bull of the
imitated but
woods.
never duplicated. And that's how my pops used to introduce himself. He was just slick on the tongue like that, and he could just talk. And so um, I'm named after my dad. I'm a junior. All right. And so he was that guy who was business smart, relationship smart. He was building smart. He was just a jack of all trades. But once my pops came out of some of the demons he faced in some of his younger years, is that he had a great sense of faith. And his great sense of faith became a great sense of community. And with that community, he really taught me what it was like to serve your fellow man. All right. And so um my pops was just that guy who you could not help but to love. Like I would come home and it would just be people in the room just hanging out with pops, just talking to him. And unfortunately, one day my dad, pops, he was doing a routine procedure. We was walking out of the hospital. I was talking to my brother Corey, and I was like, "I'm gonna go grab the car, and I'll be right back." And I literally walked around the corner. My brother called me and told me that pops had passed out, and and they're luckily we were at the hospital and they're trying to resuscitate him, and unfortunately, he just never bounced back.
Mm.
And so, and with that relationship that me and Pops had, it was I just took it hard. I really did. Like I just had my last child, Judah. He never met Judah. Like I just had so many conflicting feelings about it. And he had such a great relationship with the kids, and it was just bad. I was just in a bad place about it. And um, one of my mentors gave me some of the best advice ever, and he says, "You got to do something with all that pain and that hate and everything that you feel, and you got to put it somewhere." And it was that when I decided, because my father was a fantastic cook, that I was going to build this memorial around his legacy. And it wasn't for the intention for it to be where it's at now, but it was me calling on a great memory of me and my pops in the kitchen. I asked him what he was seasoning his food with, Paul. And he looked at me and he says, "It's a secret. I ain't gonna tell you."
Mm.
And so I never forgot that moment being in the kitchen with Pops. And so a few years ago, on his anniversary of him passing, I just did a very simple bottle of his seasoning that he used to season his food with. And I put it on Facebook. And everyone who knew and loved him, who loved his cooking, they just bought it up. It just went crazy. And I at that point I was like, huh, I might be on to something. So then I did some more variations of it and started to streamline it a little bit more. And then it started to catch on some momentum. And then at that point, I did something that any successful entrepreneur would do. And is that I looked at my circle and I says, if I'm going to do something with this, what do you guys like about it? What don't you like about it? What do I need to improve on? And this, that, and the other. And I got some solid advice from people who knew and loved me and wanted to see me succeed. And they were not yes men, right? So they didn't tell me, oh man, everything is great, man. I love this stuff. The first bottles, the ink ran off the labels. So you didn't know what was in there. I'm printing labels at the house and putting stickers on them. It wasn't where it is now. And so, like, I tell people, they really gave me some great advice to get me where we're at now. So, Pop Secret Season is one of those things that we're addressing the home cook to build community, get people at the table, and provide a great meal.
Where are you at with that now? Are you still mixing it in the kitchen, printing labels off on your Canon printer in the office, shipping it out, once a week, or have you grown it into something to where now somebody else is producing that?
So here's the great thing about it is that just about 75% of the operation is outsourced at this point, which speaks volumes. All the printing, everything like that is completely outsourced. Um, some of the marketing and stuff like that, obviously myself and some others are still contributing to, but me and the team are on that last leg of sourcing out a co-packer that will mix everything down and bottle it and then get into distribution. So the answer to your question is that we're leaps and bounds and are on our way to that last leg. But it's number one, it's expensive, and you have to understand everything has to be measured to the gram. Like you're not just doing a cup of this. You're not cooking like you're at the house. Everything has to be precise. You have to have R&D. You have to have quality control, and you have to have a dietitian approve this stuff. And then from there, you got to get into packaging and labels and marketing, and it's a whole animal. And so it's taking some time to get there.
One of the things that I learned, so I used to be, I grew up, my mom was a great cook, and it's
Hmm.
country cooking, right? There ain't no measuring, it's just cooking, right? And so that's how I started my cooking journey, and grew up cooking barbecue. But
Hmm.
when I tried to start making my own rubs, they were terrible. And this led me into one thing that you're talking, they were terrible, and I couldn't get it. In mine, the last time I ever made it, I made some because I had, just leftover stuff, and I'm like, "I'm gonna make it and get it out the kitchen so it's not taking up space." And it was at my daughter's, it might have been her second or third birthday party, could have been her first, I don't know, somewhere in there. And I cooked pulled pork, and I cooked chicken thighs. And people are like, "What is on this chicken? Oh my gosh, it's
Hmm.
so good." That's the first time I ever wrote down measurements by
Yeah,
weight
yeah.
on anything. And since then, I've made some improvements to it, but I cook a lot of artisan sourdough bread. I got a sourdough starter, I cook a bunch of bread. I do
Yep.
everything by weight. That way, it's consistent. I wanted to make it
Hmm.
consistent. So you talking about stuff having to be done, like, that's one thing about country cooking. It don't ever taste the same. Never. It always tastes good, but it never tastes the same because it's just pinches and tosses of this and that. So getting down to the grams is really creates that consistency.
Hmm.
What if now in the culinary world, you see people coming out of high school, going straight into culinary school, wanting to be, I think everybody probably has the dream to be that executive chef and either run a big famous kitchen or start their own. And you see young people doing it. You see middle-aged folks in their 30s and 40s going to do it. What would be some advice that you would have somebody that's potentially thinking about, I want a career change and I love to cook. What's some advice
Hmm.
you give somebody that's looking to get into it now?
Man, I'm glad you asked that question. I got two things to tell people. Number one, be teachable. All right. And number two, you got to have a gimmick. You got to
Hmm.
have something that sets you apart. When I say a gimmick, I don't mean a dog and pony show, but I mean something that you do very
No more
well.
not
Exactly.
Salt Bay gimmick.
But something you do very well, and you have to be willing to do something that no one else wants to do. So that simply can be I've seen people become millionaires over popping popcorn correctly.
Hmm.
And but it's the attention to detail of mastering the art of popping popcorn, right? And that's what I mean is that you have to find something that you really love that you could actually not get paid to do because you enjoy doing it that much, right? And be teachable in that moment.
And are all culinary schools the same, or at least in the states, we'll say, are there levels of culinary schools that you should look to get into? Do they focus on certain things, or are they a general cooking school, and then from there you figure out what your alley is?
So I think that there's a general studies approach when it comes to culinary schools. Yes. Now, are there's some culinary schools that really excel into pastry, other ones really excel into meat fabrication, other ones really excel into the bakery side of it. Some really excel into hotel restaurant management. So once again, depending on your drive and your focus, there are certain colleges from a culinary standpoint and curriculum that are really going to meet you right where you need to be.
What is, and I know this can be person to person, or in the chef world, what is the
Mhm.
hardest what is the hardest food to cook? Not meal, but just the food that people mess up, or the ones that people had the most problems with, or maybe what is that one food that's the hardest thing to cook that most chefs would agree on?
Proteins.
Hmm.
So you got to understand that depending on the cut of meats, depending on the technique of cooking, depending on the desired expectation at the end, there's a whole host of factors that are going to contribute into you getting to that final place, right? And the science of it. So, for instance, you can cook something to 150 degrees, right? But the resting time where you allow something to come off the grill or come out of the pan or out of the oven, and you allow it to sit on the cutting board before you cut it, it's going to take another 5 to 7 degrees that it's going to raise. So you might think you pulled it out at the perfect temperature at 150 degrees. But now then you check it again, it's 155, 156, 57. So it's that carryover. So you need to know mentally, I need to pull that at 100 and maybe 44 to get where I need to be, and so on and so forth. So it's a whole thought process, once again, of science to get to where you want to be. So meats are really tricky.
And you're doing this for tens of 20s to hundreds of people. And we're sitting over here cooking 2 or 3 steaks and can't even get that right. And here y'all are making hundreds of meals and having to do each individual piece of meat perfect.
Hmm.
That's
Yeah.
amazing. I mean, when that's your job, I mean, you get good at it. But that's amazing, the amount of food that you have to prepare and it be good, because let's be real, people love your cooking and don't have anything but good stuff to say until they have to start paying for it. And then when people have to start paying for your food, they get all up in the feelings and get some opinions in there. Have you run into any folks I'm sure you have, is it how is that when you're cooking? How do you take the feedback sometimes when, somebody gave you something that they're uneducated and they gave you an uneducated review?
So, early in my career, I will probably get in my feelings quickly about it. But one thing I've learned is that everyone's going to have an opinion, and food is one of the most easiest things to criticize
Mm.
because everyone has a different experience of what they've encountered. Here's a great story. I never forgot about 6 years ago, I was on a college campus cooking, and one of the things that I believed in is if we can make it from scratch, we will. And one of the things we used to do at the campus was make hand breaded chicken tenders, right? And I never forget, I got a phone call from my mom. She was just irate. She's like, my son hates the food there because you guys don't cook real food. And I'm like, what? And I says, if we're probably the realest and most scratch thing that's on this side of the planet, but here he was raised on pre-breaded convenience food. because that's what his mom fed him. So to get something fresh and from scratch, it didn't sit well with him. And so he literally called his mom, as like, they're trying to kill me. This food isn't real. And so here it was. Once again, it wasn't that pre-breaded convenience piece of chicken that he's been used to his whole life.
That's we I've got some friends in my circle that grew up on box food.
Hmm.
Parents never cooked. That's what they grew up on. No flavor, no seasoning. Like what how it came out the box is how we ate it. And it was, usually warmed up in the microwave. So your breaded chicken was a soggy lump of chicken,
Hmm.
a chicken
Hmm.
tender. And those folks,
Hmm.
once they got out and started eating some different foods and eating some different cooking, they were like, man, I was deprived as a child. I, yeah, I don't even know how to boil water, boil an egg, or anything like that. It's funny.
Hmm.
It's funny. Some of the walks of life folks come into from a food perspective when it's one of the most important things that we do and consume as people. I mean, it's
Hmm.
what keeps us alive.
Yep. Yep. I agree. And food is one of those great things that I absolutely love because it literally breaks down barriers from social status, economic status. It breaks down religion. It breaks down race, creed, all of that. And it bypasses all that. And you're able to sit across from someone and actually be in community, and there's no judgment there. And that's what I absolutely love about food because it has got me into doors and introduced me to people that typically I would have no reason to be around, right? And so I absolutely love what food does. And if you allow it, it'll teach you a lot of things about history, it'll teach you a lot about culture, and it'll teach you a lot about yourself, and sometimes the good and the bad. And so that's what I love about food is that right there is that
Hmm.
being able to introduce and be able to level up and be able to have these great experiences.
It's a binder for people. You sit down at a table and eat a meal, and you're talking to the people across from you or next to you, and it's I can't think of the phrase I want to use besides binder for whatever the hell reason that's stuck in there. But there's nothing like a plate of chips and salsa or a cheese
Hmm.
dip or something just sitting around the island in your house when you're having a shindig and there's a group of people sitting there picking food, eating. It brings folks together, creates
Hmm.
conversation. It's a dot connecting activity, as I like to call it.
Yep, good stuff. It is. It really is.
What's the most fun thing you've done in your chef journey up to this point?
I will say that I very rarely introduce myself as a celebrity chef, right? But the reality is that I've had a great career so far, and I've had an opportunity to do some really fantastic things, which has created a lot of great opportunities for me. And with that being said, um, it has allowed me to become a trailblazer, and it has allowed me to do some things that has created avenues and venues for others to be inspired. And when they look at TV and they see me on there, or they see a magazine, or I'm on the news, and because of my journey and the different things I've been able to do, it actually motivates people. And so and that's the one thing I absolutely will bring tears to my eyes and makes me lose my breath when I get an email, a letter, or an inbox from someone young or someone old who is having a moment, struggling, some insecurities, and they say, "Man, you're so dope, man. You give me hope. Thanks for being positive," or whatever the case might be. It's the little things like that that does it for me.
I got you. Do you have anything coming up that you can announce? Like, do you have any shows coming up? Do you have anything we can look out for?
Man, so COVID shut down a lot of my plans when it came to TV. But I will say, coming out of it, being able to get more back into community. So this upcoming spring, I'm actually going to be back in Ohio, and I'm being able to give back to my community back in Canton, Ohio. Conquest, we're doing a huge give back to the community. I always do in honor of my father, and we raise money for heroin addiction, for mental illness and health. And so we usually look to raise about $250,000 to offset cost to be able to provide services for folks who just need some
Wow,
help. So that's one of the things I'm concentrating on in the spring is putting on that event.
I got you. Do you watch any of these YouTube chefs that are out there now? Not Jamie Oliver or any of the big time folks, but any of these folks like Stale Cracker, some of these people out there cooking stuff and throwing it on. Watch any of that at all?
What do you call it? The ticky tack, the ticky
Ticky
tack.
tack.
uh, that's about as close as I get to it. I you humbly I say with my schedule, like I don't have a lot of downtime like that. I
Good.
really don't. I have 4 kids. I'm 4 kids, a booming career.
Yeah.
Like it is nonstop. I ain't got time to be sitting there watching.
Man, we got to get Uncle Roger to review you cooking some fried rice. Have you seen Uncle Roger?
I have not, but I feel
You
like I'm
all
gonna
right?
have to look it up.
Did you go look? He roasts Jamie Oliver to no damn end about cooking fried rice. Look him up. It's a hilarious bit he does. I got to ask you this too. You're a chef. You go to other people's houses to eat. Are you judging every damn thing they cook? Like, can you step out of being a chef when you're eating other people's food and not judge and enjoy it for what it is? Or are you like, this is way too much damn salt? Oh my god, what did they put in this? Or you look at the potluck at work and you're like, I am not touching that. How is it as a chef eating other people's food? Is it enjoyable?
So it can be. Now, I don't I got I got a couple of rules though, Paul, I'm telling you. Is that number one, I don't do potlucks. I don't do because number one, you don't know what people got going on in their kitchen and their sanitation. You know what I'm saying?
Though Tiki Tack will show you that what's the song? You can't eat at everybody's house.
So that's number one. Number two is when you operate on a high level in food service, is that there comes a great responsibility for food safety and sanitation. And with that being said, I distinctly remember growing up and Thanksgiving that my mom and my dad would just leave the turkey sitting out, the thaw, right?
Yeah.
If you do that, the health department will shut you down. So,
You
so
can't
with
be
that,
putting that raw turkey in the fridge with all the other cooked food either. Hey, you know
ex-
what? We need to do another show in the future strictly talking about food safety.
I agree.
I want to dive into that one time and talk about food safety because the shit people do at their houses is like you don't understand how they just don't have the bubble guts every time they
The
cook.
The BGs, I'm telling you, exactly. But it's something, for instance, something else that we've all done, and we just leave food sitting on the top of the stove. It's cooked, it just sits there. If you want something to eat, scoop it out, put it in the microwave, or you don't even microwave it, you just eat it as is, right? And so, with that being said, is that um, it's not that I don't trust people, I just don't trust the devil inside of them. So with that being said, um,
Yeah.
I'm very selective of that. The other point is that oftentimes I bring pop secret seasoning everywhere I go. So I try to get them to understand that the ancestors want you to season your food.
Look, the chicken when it's raw and ready to be cooked is pink, light, white, whatever. I'm colorblind, so I don't know what the hell we call it. But when it's
Hmm.
done being cooked, it can't be white at the end. Some dry ass chicken. I don't. It's like somebody painted it, whitewashed it. I don't
It,
understand how people think that. I don't. I mean, vegetables. How people cook
mhm.
vegetables? They don't put the first grain of salt, no damn butter. I mean, how many times I've eaten green beans and it's just boiled water green beans? I don't understand.
Oh my
No,
God, are you
no
okay over there,
bacon. I
Paul?
mean,
You
I
let
understand with vegan and stuff, you can't put bacon in there, or but damn, at least put some salt and pepper, a pinch or two.
Oh my God, are you okay over there, Paul? You let loose, man. You let loose.
I'm by no means a chef. I love to cook and I cook the food that I enjoy, but
Hmm.
man, I want it to taste like something besides some dry ass chicken. You know what I'm
I
saying?
agree. I agree. And and bringing it back full circle, and that's the one thing that I always come back to Pop Secret seasoning and having the different, levels is designed for the home cook. And it's for that reason right there is that if you are ever in doubt, get some of that PSS in your life, season it up, and trust me, I think you're gonna be all right.
There we go. I
because
like it.
be- because if Paul's coming over, he wants it to taste like something.
Look, something. Green beans don't taste like nothing but
This
boiled butter and green beans. I mean, come on, boiled hot dogs got more flavor than that. Where can folks find you on social media, website, anything like that if they want to get in touch with you and follow along with the cool stuff you're doing?
Man, I appreciate it. So anything social media related, website is literally stephencbaity.com. STEPHAN Baity, BAITY.com. So if you follow, I follow back. If you send me a message, I try to write back as soon as I can get free. But enjoy the journey, enjoy the ride, and just once again, just let's just make some great food that actually tastes like something, right, Paul?
Please, y'all, season your food. Please, please. If people ask you for some cooking advice,
Yep.
do you give them some advice?
I try my best. I
Okay.
really try. So, it- honestly, it's great that you asked that question, Paul, because most of the questions I literally get is people just need to talk it out. Most of the time, people have the answers, believe it or not, Paul. They just need that reassurance to know that they're on the right
Mhm.
path. And so that's generally speaking, a few messages back and forth. They're like, I was thinking that, okay, all right, so it's good to do X, Y, and Z. And I'm like, go for it. And they're
See,
like, cool.
that's the teacher in you right there. You don't tell them the answer. You guide them to the answer. You guide them to create the answer that they need.
Hmm. Yeah, it's funny that you talk about that is that being a dad, I have 4 kids, has actually made me a better chef than before I had kids. I've learned a lot about just how to talk to people, be patient. I learned how to explain myself, to break it down in smaller terms, follow up, just all those different things as being a dad that they translate into being a great chef and being a great leader. So it's amazing that you pick up on that because it's the same thing.
Look, some your kids, some of that food they be cooking was that monkey bread that with the fruit that they cooked a couple of weeks ago. Was that good? Because I made I'd have licked my phone, almost licked my phone. It looked so good.
I tell you, Seth and Olivia, the two oldest, is that they've been rocking with me for a while, so they get it. Then KK and Judah, who are the younger two, they're starting to figure it out that if I can get in the kitchen and learn how to cook it, I can eat it. So they got hip to Seth and Olivia's game. So, but I always wanted my kids to be able to, for us to be able to connect and for them not
Hmm.
to see my career as a competition, but a
Hmm.
compliment. So, because I'm so busy, humbly, and I travel a lot and so on and so forth, oftentimes that relationships can be fragmented depending on the type of the year and what's going on. So I always want my kids to have an understanding of what it takes to get to that meal. So they do appreciate the kitchen. They really do.
Awesome. Well, Chef, this was awesome, man. I really appreciate you coming on. We definitely got another episode in the future talking food safety and maybe some of the stuff you've seen or heard
No,
about
yeah.
to do that. Thank you so much for coming on. This was awesome, man. Y'all go follow Chef Baity on the social media. I'm telling you, you're gonna see his artwork if you hadn't already, and it is going to absolutely amaze you. It is. I can't even articulate my words right now because it is on a whole different level. I saw it in person. Chef and I met at a networking event here in Raleigh area. This would have been 2019,
Hmm.
and I still have the pictures of the artwork you had out there. Y'all go check it out. It's absolutely amazing. Hey, look, I can't even talk now. I'm so excited. It's at the end of the podcast. Should have been all jibber jabberish at the beginning. I appreciate y'all listening. I appreciate y'all subscribing to the podcast if you enjoy it. And please, if you think it'd be worthwhile for somebody else, your friends, your family, you share it with them. And I sure do appreciate it.